Hello YouTube. I had hoped to go live for you, but I don't have a webcam and meet the requirements, so I'm going to have to record this. I was trying to break that milestone of actually going live because it's something I've really never done. But I come to you today with a heavy, heavy heart because of what has been done to my data removed from LinkedIn app. I am not really sure exactly of the reason, but I need progressives' help. My name is Ryan Wall. I am the president of Raw Ideas, Inc., and I am the author of the Green New Deal book, 2009 copyright, Raw War Against Law Without Logic. So to give you a little bit of history about this, in 2006, I wrote to Barack Obama by way of Colin Powell, sending a 30-page letter to Colin Powell to hand deliver to Barack Obama because I saw the ability for anti-war libertarians who were flocking to Colin Powell for leaving the Bush administration. Now, this is important because I live in New Orleans and most of my friends are conservatives. Like 650 of my 700 plus friends are all conservatives and were deeply into Donald Trump. But there are about 25 friends and family who were completely Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in this latest election. But they quickly went back to the right because they weren't about to vote for an establishment Democrat. It's just not something they are capable of doing. But these are libertarian people who are good people, and I'm here today to change their mind. What happened to me over the last half a month or so was on January 7th, I made a comment to a PBS public broadcasting link on LinkedIn itself. And now, after my restriction came, I'm starting to figure out possibly why. And I believe that my comment had a false reporting against it because my comment contained a Hill We Climb poem for Amanda Gorman, giving her those words without any strings attached whatsoever. But I feel my rights have been violated, and possibly even someone's agreement with LinkedIn or even theirs with me. And I'm here today to make this video because I need your progressive help to put pressure on these people to reinstate my comment that contained that poem. I wanted no copyright value whatsoever. I stated it very clearly in the comment. And that poem was written in an autistic slight that I fall into at times when I am making comments. And when I do, there's very little punctuation, and what I write will look like a run-on sentence. And that's important because in that style of writing, you will see throughout my Facebook and LinkedIn data that the style of this poem was clearly me, and it represents very little of what she has ever written and posted herself. I am not saying that Amanda is a liar at all. I am not saying she is trying to take credit for something that she was not given. But it is time for her to know the truth, that either someone that runs that PBS link brought these words to her from that page, possibly trying to take credit for my work, when it was given clearly to Amanda Gorman to use in that address, in that poetry to our nation's capital. That came from my spirit, my soul, my heart, my mind. And I recorded it in that comment because I hear things. I hear receptions. And when I hear these type of poems, lines just coming out of the clear blue sky, and I start writing them down, that means something to me because of the type of condition that I have through my native blood that was passed down from my great-great-grandmother. And it is deeply hurtful for me as I watched those comments come out of her mouth, and tears rolled down my face as I turned to my wife and said, "Oh my God, she is using my poem," only to open up my account to find restriction and to see that my comment had been taken down. And now what this is really about is not about money. It's not about claiming rights to the poem that I clearly gave her. This is about making it right with my wife, who I am afraid does not believe me. This is deeply hurtful. Amanda, if you are watching, all I've asked from you is that you just call her. I just want her to know that what I spoke to her on this couch at the proudest moment of my life that turned into the most embarrassing moment because I was trying to save my country. Now I want to take you back to the letter that I sent to Barack Obama. From that letter came a half a dozen laws, including the car company, because I suggested that the way to save the car companies was to bring back the 69 body styles that all of those people never owned but now can afford. That is what turned the car companies around, and it was stated in the letter. Meals on Wheels came from a story of a 90-pound kid that was sent to Angola, who for 4 days without food became desperate because his baby brother stopped crying. And he knew that something was tragically wrong, but his mom was missing off in a crack house or somewhere. And he found her boyfriend's gun, and he went out into the public, and he turned it on another man that drew on him first, knowing that if he died, his little brother too would die. That kid with full-blown AIDS, the last time I saw him, was covered in boils because he was fed to an animal at Angola State Penitentiary. There are other details that are too graphic for me to explain in this kid's story, but that's just another law that came from that letter. My cousin Tony was a vet, a lieutenant, Air Force intelligence. He was among the first Americans to be on the ground in Vietnam. He was sprayed with poison for 3 years from 65 to 1968. And I had just gone to see him Thanksgiving before I wrote this letter to learn that for 11 years on his back, unable to move, neck down paraplegic. The first 7 years still with sensation to feel, but could not move. Just imagine that pain, laying in a bed all those years. So when I wrote to Colin Powell and to Barack Obama, I wanted something done, asking that they go to Bernie Sanders, who was chair of the Arms and Services Committee at the time, and I loved him on his cannabis speech. But I asked them to please get his help and get something done for my cousin. And the 2008 VA bill was that something that brought that Agent Orange relief to my cousin to help him, and brought him a 1,000-pound chair that he rode up to my father's funeral. There's a little more history about him that I won't go into now, maybe in another future video. But the point is, I reached out through collective spirit to get these things done, and they got done. But I also said that I would be sending a follow-up letter after he was elected, knowing he would be. And that letter contained a CD that was the Green New Deal. I believe most of it, even though his language did not talk about cannabis specifically, I believe most of it was in the 2010 budget that was soundly rejected before the election. And I believe that that budget being rejected in part made Austin Goolsbee resign. And I believe that was the beginning of the downfall of losing the progressives and the libertarians who thought that it was going to be different. And I do not blame Barack Obama completely, but I don't think that he fought with Reid hard enough to get that budget through the Senate that would have avoided the tragic losses that ended his presidency basically by Republicans taking the House and the Senate. He lost all of the people that I helped him gain by giving him that letter, trying to help him understand. And I must admit something to progressives right now. All of the time that my Twitter feed, Raw Ideas, right there in my bio, it said I was a neocon, though I was a left-leaning person. I consider myself a libertarian socialist. I am not fiscally conservative like most libertarians who I believe really aren't libertarians, because they lean a little bit more towards authoritarianism than they actually realize they are. But the point of this is Barack Obama did not fight for progressives, and none of us should be confused that they are going to do it again. They are trying to maintain our security and our votes to not have the same thing happen in the midterm, that a little more war, a little more drones, no cannabis legalization. No one whatsoever was charged in the 2008 disaster that took $3 trillion from American retirees and pensions. That is a big deal, and it has been part of my argument throughout Twitter that some of you are going to recognize Raw Ideas from, because that is where I pounded it daily, that yes, there is connection between Trump and Russia, but the progressives and the anti-war left young people do not really understand, because they weren't old enough to be paying attention to what mattered. That is why I was there on Raw Ideas Inc. on Twitter, trying to get inside the 48 Twitter thread to alert the young people of this nation and progressive values and the socialists and the communists, even anarchists. I was speaking to them all because I know the powers that be passed the two laws, being one, the 2000 Gramm-Leach-Bliley law, and two, the 2003 American Dream No Down Payment Act that I actually got into this House because of. So I was grateful for that law, but many have misconstrued what actually demolished our economy because of that law. And that reason is because Reginald Falcon was a regulator that was controlling the money that would go to that program. He told Bush twice not to release the second wave of money because all of the first round applicants who were rejected in the first round would get those loans through fraud, because it was set up to where the local level brokers were going to be the felons. They are the ones who made $10,000 on an ARM loan instead of $1,200 on a conventional loan. That creates fraud in and of itself, and I believe the law was designed just for that reason. Why is that important? It's important because that 2.5 million loans in that second round is what created the default swap possibility, where bundles of loans were falsely rated and sent to the entities like Lehman Brothers, Bears and Stearns. Those two firms alone carried almost $1 trillion in assets, and a lot of it was old Jewish money, survivors that Hitler put through the worst torment imaginable. Why is this a big deal? Because in 2000, when that law was created, Gramm-Leach-Bliley, every billionaire and every person who understands money around the world was watching, and authoritarians knew exactly what they were up to. They were seeking wealth that was ultra-conservative into the tune of $1 trillion, that in the next decade, as these elderly Jewish survivors passed away, was going to be aired to their leftist generation, their kids. So why is that a big deal? Because that is the way authoritarians think, through fear. They see that wealth going to empower the left in the generation to come, and they had to do something about it. Why is it so evil? My good friend, on her way to work, the tragic morning of 9/11, had left a dentist appointment and was heading to the top floor of one of those towers where all of her work crew and mentors were, as she watched them fall to the ground. And as tears rolled her face, as I asked her about the 2008 financial crisis and what caused it, she looked me dead in my eyes and said, "Ryan, had those people not died, 2008 would never have happened." Let that sink in, everyone, okay? Because when you look at the high five that Vladimir Putin and the Saudi Prince of Saudi Arabia, just days after the G20 meeting, just days after the Republican Senate did not renew the sanctions that were issued at 98-2. Why is that a big deal? Because the National Rifle Association Russian money leverage scheme was likely felonies developed on our Republican senators to change that vote, because the huge holdings that Barack Obama told us about after those sanctions was likely the gains that Putin made by stealing from his own country. In 2008, Medvedev was president, and he went public talking about a third of Russia's economy was stolen in corruption in that period. Why would somebody steal a third of Russia's budget unless they were going to use it to bet on something that would fail and triple their money? But can they take that money home if he stole the stake to bet it? Obviously not. He had to become president again. Then he ran into roadblocks, because when Medvedev asked for help, Obama whispered to him, "Help is on the way." And he said, "Oh, I'll let Putin know." Whether or not he knew Putin was the source of that corruption or not, he asked for help, and he got it in the way of a coup that stopped that pro-Russian president that would give Vladimir Putin access to his money if it was in Ukrainian accounts, explaining that Ukraine was about no neutral zone. It was about having control of those banks to have control of his money. Why did he leave it there briefly before those sanctions issued? Maybe we should ask the Republicans about that, because in each government shutdown and manufactured crises in the Obama administration, those same Republicans and others who were invested deeply into blind trust hedge fund holdings, is my best guess, knew that each government shutdown and each failure that their money was growing, because that is how hedge funds grow. When stuff fails and people have bet on it to fail. Did Vladimir Putin become the richest dictator on the planet with help? That is where Trump, I'm afraid, comes into play here. Because when equity disappeared, Trump had just sunk $400 million made at The Apprentice into golf courses on Ally Shore waterfront property. Let that sink in a minute. Ally Shore waterfront property is deeded to possibly the same person who did he give collateral to by giving him inside information to be able to know exactly where to bet? And was this really all about Nazi war spoil gathering to take money away from people who Hitler tortured before they gave it to their leftist generation kids? Now, I want you to put all of this together that I'm saying to you and know that in my LinkedIn comment, I was critical about Barack Obama because in my letter, I was trying to get help with my patent, which is a doghouse that buries under the ground, but is also a survival capsule that can save either animals or humans in a flood, as well as being buried under the ground beneath mobile homes with an escape hatch to be able to get a whole family underground so tornadic activity doesn't carry them away. There's different measures to that that I won't go into because it's not really important. But I didn't receive any help through that letter to try to get my patent made when I was offering it for charitable reasons for refugee camps, to be able to put a climate controlled unit that uses ground temperature through one solar fan circulated through 4-inch pipe beneath the ground that can use the ground temperature to make a comfortable climate for someone in dire straits, or even a border patrol foxhole for them to have a habitat to be out of inclement weather to make their job easier. All of those same ideas that Barack Obama couldn't help me with, before him and Colin Powell was written, I wrote to Bill Gates Foundation and sent the same letter, nearly 20 pages long, offering him free rights to the patent if he would look into helping me build the molds that I would be able to use myself to offer the application to the public for its original design. And what I got from Bill Gates? Zero. Not even a thank you. But in that same letter, because Katrina had ravaged my town and killed a couple of thousand people, I asked for help because I thought I could save people from drowning again. And as a show of good measure and a show of faith in my idea, I offered him an idea that was conceived at a 52-mile rig offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, where I nearly watched my friend die because they turned on turbines at a rig that was not supposed to be dove at. And as the guy on top of the rig was screaming and whistling, as I saw the water change coming up and deep blue water coming from down deep, I watched the temperature gauge as I feared for my friend's life, who was actually clinging to a stanchion, almost pulled from the stanchion into the turbines. But I watched the temperature gauge drop from 82 degrees to 70 degrees in the matter of a couple of minutes. And it hit me in my head like a brick. This is how we kill storms. By upwelling cold water from 300 feet in mobile barges by using turbines, which is what I told Bill. But there was a much easier way to go about it that I hoped when he called me I could discuss with him when it was on record that I wasn't giving away my idea like I am about to right now for free by simply creating plastic sheeted cylinders with weighted bottoms and using pumice stone and solar energy and battery packs. Tesla, I hope you are listening, and I hope you run with this idea, and maybe you will give me some recognition for it. But we can use a small compressor run by solar powered, charged by day, and pumping by night air down 300 feet to be able to create air bubbles that are going to bring that deep water constantly to the surface and chill the temperature surface water. If these things are deployed near where the reefs are having dangerous consequences from the heat and also from the acidic water, I believe we can turn this around, because if it done by remote to be able to read temperature variation, we can simply pump cold water to the surface that is going to help bring that temperature down almost immediately, as well as nutrients from deeper water that may not be getting to the surface where these corals need them to be to dilute that acidity that's causing the reefs to die. So take that into account, that I was trying to get my patent evolved, but I was ignored. That is the information that was contained in the comment with the Amanda Norman submission of A Hill We Climb that was taken down from my LinkedIn account. And I don't know if it was done to protect her copyright, or if possibly someone running the tech at PBS saw those words and said, hey, wow, this is a great poem. Let me take it to Amanda myself. Which I kind of believed for a long time that someone at the Gates Foundation that read my registered letter did the same thing. And maybe he only saw the hurricane killer idea that person brought to him for who knows, God knows what, brownie points. I'm telling you this today because I am a progressive. I am a progressive in ideas, but I am a libertarian on liberty. And when I see people's liberty violated the way I think mine was, knowing the intent of those words that I wrote through my soul, it is deeply depressing now, knowing that someone is going to go make millions of dollars like every laureate has off of poems, but yet I sit here and I can't afford to pay for my own home, and my wife and kids and I are in dire straits, and I'm going to have to go into savings to save it. Savings that I was hoping one day I could sink in to all of these ideas when somebody that would offer some help to me would see what I am about and who I am and my intent. Now, there are other things about my establishment critique on social media that is deeply disturbing to the establishment people in Washington, D.C. who do not want my voice to be heard. And that reason is because I'm almost sure, by the way that Jeffrey Epstein set up investing, only accepting $1 billion per client as a minimum, that creates a problem if people want to invest in his strategies. Because what happens is they don't make $1 billion, so they would have to pool money together to be able to have $1 billion. And what does that do? That puts them on the same damn page while they try to keep us divided. I believe this has an underlying cause to what is happening, and I hope to have your help soon, because I know they're probably coming for me at some point because of all the things that I've said and done, because it jeopardizes not only their credibility, but their freedom. I am here today to fight for mine and fight for my liberty and to fight for you. Because the progressive voice that I listen to on Twitter, all of my friends, God and the Bear, Johnny Grazier, and oh my God, Jules, I love you. You are the fiery progressive that got to my soul. But it is God and Bear who helped cure it. Because her anti-war position changed this neocon. She made me realize who the brave really are, which is those who would give up their liberty, which means they are not a liberal, and who would give up their life to save one that they do not know. That is what progressives instilled in the 48 thread to me on Twitter. And with all of that in my heart, as I watched the Hacksaw Ridge movie and I realized what a conscientious objector was and how brave Desmond Doss was, it literally made me cry for 3 days. And I just want to tell the progressives how grateful I am that you helped me be this person. Because I will tell you honestly, in 2006, I had promised my book, and in 2009, I delivered it. And I had a terrible impression that the anti-war people who voted for Nader would simply vote for Barack Obama again in the midterm because they had nowhere else to go. And I was one drone wrong. I was one war wrong. And I am admitting that here today. Barack Obama, if you are watching, I was wrong. And you were wrong if you listened to me. Because they are the brave. And they need to know it. And the country needs to show that they know it. Now, I'm going to go into another area of this. And one of the main reasons that I kind of do have some fears. In my process of dealing with my autistic slight, I met a 95-year-old survivor who was a